Hey folks, this is Fernando doing another video for the More Survivalist, and this video is about when bugging out is not the solution. Kind of ironic having just written a book about bugging out and relocating, but that's also important to understand when you're not going to be fixing anything with bugging out and moving somewhere else. Again, just watching a few more videos and reading articles about what people have to say about the subject and such, and yet again you see this a lot of really misguided ideas about when you have to evacuate and bug out. I was just watching a clip mentioning the possibility of an economic collapse, mentioning unemployment, the disaster of hyperinflation or inflation and job loss and that sort of thing, and having to bug out of the cities because of all this. And that just does not make any sense whatsoever. It's not everything that forces you to bug out and relocate, or at least bug out. It's not the solution for absolutely every possible problem in life, bugging out. And if you go by what some people have to say, apparently it is. Apparently you fix, honey, I just got fired. Okay, let's bug out. No, you don't do that. Or, man, tomatoes went up $2. Well, let's bug out. It was even mentioned in this clip, if you pick up the phone and the phone is not working and you lose your internet signal and connection, bug out. I mean, why the hell would you be bugging out because of no reason whatsoever? The simple rule to go by is bugging out in general is reserved for when you don't have any other choice but to do so. Okay, you just don't bug out of wherever it is that you are just because you lost your job, or 100 people in your neighborhood lost their jobs, or 1,000 people in your company got fired, or whatever, because of job loss, because of inflation, because of an actual economic collapse, which happens sometimes. That doesn't mean you're going to be bugging out, because you're not going to be fixing anything by doing so. And this is where we have a lot of this wishful thinking, fantasy thing going on. And you know what? We have a lot of what people like doing, right? People like using their vehicles. If you have an off-road vehicle, a truck, we guys like cars, we like trucks, we like guns as well. We like shooting, hunting, killing animals, eating them. All lots of fun. Camping, hiking, that's all very exciting and entertaining. And maybe we end up trying to justify to some degree the things that we like doing, thinking that they would apply to circumstances and situations where they really wouldn't. And this is a perfect example of that. Because of an economic crisis, because of high inflation, you're going to be bugging out. Because phones are not working, or because power went out, you're going to be bugging out. You just do that when something actually forces you out of wherever it is that you're living. When is it that cities become death traps that you have to get out of there? It's not going to be because of rioting, looting, and that sort of thing. I've seen more rioting and looting than most other folks have, probably. It all ends up going away in a matter of days at the most. Looting, rioting, civil unrest for political, economic reasons and whatnot in Argentina, in other parts of the world, in other countries, in other moments of history, in current moments of history. If you have civil unrest because of those reasons, you will not have to bug out of your city because of that. You will not have to evacuate Houston, Dallas, LA, or any other city in the civilized world because of unemployment, because of a few protests on the streets. Now, you do have some situations where you really have no other choice. Gaza right now. If you're in Gaza, you're getting shelled all day long. Man, you should have left there long ago. I mean, you're you're gonna be destroyed there, right? Syria, another example. You're in eastern Ukraine. You don't need any crystal ball. You need a little bit of common sense. I did the video about Ukraine a couple months ago, and when all this started, especially when the events about Crimea happened over there in Ukraine, it was very obvious that all the eastern part of Ukraine was going to be, it already was seeing signs of, the different political and economic struggles there, and Russia trying to have more control in that region. But especially in the eastern part of the country, it was very obvious that there was going to be lots and lots of trouble. That would have been the moment to sit down and decide. I mean, there's good enough chance that we're going to be seeing war happening here because of war, because of very serious military conflict happening in a region. That's the kind of thing that you have to honestly ask yourself if it's safe to stay there anymore or not. And usually when these things end up happening, they're more of a large scale kind of thing, so maybe even having to leave the country entirely. But the case of Ukraine was mostly like you have to relocate from eastern Ukraine, having to relocate to western Ukraine, where things are maybe a little bit more normal. I think that if I had been in that position, for example, Syria, I would have left Syria entirely. It's more of a, at least to me, it seemed more clear that leaving the country entirely was the best thing to do because of the kind of civil war going on. In the case of Ukraine, it's more of a struggle with Russia, where it's going to be more likely to stick, at least so far, seems to be a little bit more likely to be sticking more to the eastern region, and maybe in Kiev, you could still make a case for staying there, unless you have some better arrangements or something like that. But you could still make a case for I'm in Kiev or moving from east to west and staying there. That could still be a possibility. But sometimes you have to leave. But it's only in those specific cases that you have a strong case for, I have to bug out of the city, or I have to bug out of the country entirely, which is what I write about in my book, Bugging Out and Relocating. I write about that, about when it comes to the moment where, because of these events, you have to leave the country entirely. How likely is this to happen? Of course, it's not the most likely thing in the world, having to relocate out of a country and bug out of the country, bug out abroad, as I mentioned in the book. It's not the most common thing, but it ends up happening sometimes. And I think that it's still a good idea to have some plans ahead of time. At least try to understand where it is that you would be going and how you would be achieving that. What countries are within your possibilities because of the citizenship that you may have, because of the immigration laws of different countries. Where would you be going if you have to leave your country right this moment, or in a couple of days, or in a couple of weeks? Where would you be going if you're in that position, like the people in Syria are, like the people in Ukraine, like the people in Gaza are? Where would you be going? Again, it doesn't happen all the time, but look at Ukraine. Last year, was it? It wouldn't have been something that most people in that country were thinking about, but still, it ended up happening. And when it does, you have to make those tough choices. But it's not that everything in life gets fixed with bugging out. And unemployment reaches 25%. Okay, we're all bugging out to the country, living off the land. We're going in our bug out trailer and building a cabin in the woods. Gonna be living off the land, hunting, gathering and fishing, and it's all stuff that it's fun, but it's not a solution. First of all, you're not solving anything by bugging out with those kind of things. I mean, Spain has, many parts of Spain have 25% of unemployment, right? And cities in Spain, many parts actually have even more than that. I mean, there's parts of Spain that until not that long ago had half the people without a job. In some of the smaller towns where things were even tougher than in most of the country. And you don't bug out to the country and start building a cabin and going little house on the prairie. You don't actually fix anything. Yeah, it is true that lots of people ended up going to other countries because of the economic hardships of their own. Like in Spain, Argentina, different countries, Greece. Lots of people from Greece, seeing the economic situation, they just bug out abroad to other places looking for a job. It's not as dramatic as Syria. You're not getting bombed like in Gaza, but it's still something that leaves you with pretty much no other choice but to go look of other ways of earning a living in other places, right? Still having to leave behind your country in a very tough position, probably not a lot of resources. So it's important to be capable to do that if it ever comes down to it. I'd say that in the case specifically of the United States, even though this idea of bugging out because of any ridiculous small-scale event, it's of course completely mistaken. But I would say though that bugging out not, but relocating within the United States, that may be a decision you may end up taking so as to place yourself in a better financial and social situation. What I mean by this is, even though you're not going to be bugging out to the country or to anywhere for that matter because of cities burning down because of 25% unemployment, you may end up finding yourself living in a city, living in a state where things are very tough, your own personal situation is just as bad or maybe even worse, and you may have to sit down and decide, okay, we can no longer keep going this way, it's not viable for us anymore, we have to look for some other place within the United States where things are better, where we have more job opportunities, where things are safer maybe as well, and we are going to be capable of getting through better, and we're going to be having a better life as well. That's more of a not bugging out, it's more of a relocating thing. That's more of a of carefully choosing where you're going to be living because of the constantly changing scenario given world events as of right now. Folks, just a few more thoughts to keep in mind. Yeah, the idea of bugging out and living off the land, hunting, fishing, and building a cabin in the woods is all very entertaining, but not real modern survivalism, preparedness, or whatever you want to call it. It's just not what people end up doing in the real world. Guys, take care, subscribe, thumbs up if you like the video. See you on our next video. Have a great day.